The announcement came on a Thursday morning, and I already knew what was in it before Lance finished his first sentence. My name is Garrett Hale. I'm 49 years old. I've spent 12 years at Caldwell Logistics Group doing work that kept this company standing. Not the kind of work that gets you on a slide deck or in a press release. The kind that happens at 11 p.m. on a Friday when a vendor call goes sideways and you're the only one who knows which clause fixes it. I'm telling you this story because I think you'll recognize it, and if you do, keep reading. There were bagels on the table when I walked into the all-hands. That was the first sign. Lance Caldwell only catered when he was about to do something he knew people wouldn't like. Last time there was food in that conference room, half the QA team got restructured into marketing and their manager found out via calendar invite. I took a seat halfway down the left side of the table, not too close to the front, not hiding in the back. 12 years teaches you where to sit. Lance came in last. Right behind him was a 25-year-old kid named Nolan, wearing a blazer with the brand tag still stitched to the sleeve. Nolan was the son of Clint, an old golf buddy of Lance's. He had arrived 3 weeks earlier with dual monitors, a window seat, and more confidence than anyone who had never shipped a single purchase order had any right to carry. Lance launched into his opener about growth and fresh energy and next-generation leadership. The kind of speech that sounds like it belongs at a conference, but means something completely different when you've heard it a few times. I watched the slide change. Project Arengate, Strategic Leadership Initiative. The project I had been building quietly for 7 months. The vendor matrix, the integration architecture, the supplier exclusivity deals, all of it mine. I'm thrilled to announce, Lance said, that Nolan will be leading Project Arengate as our interim innovation strategy lead. The room went quiet in a specific way, not surprised quiet, more like nobody wants to be the first to react quiet. I clapped 3 times, slow and polite. The kind of clap a teacher gives a third grader for sitting still. My name was not mentioned. Not once. I want you to sit with that for a second. 7 months of work. Vendor frameworks, integration, logic, client transition plans, supplier relationships built over a decade. And the man who built all of it didn't get so much as a nod. After the meeting, I walked back to my desk and pulled out a folder from my bottom drawer. I had labeled it 8 months earlier. In case they pull this. I set it on my desk, opened it, and started reading through what was inside. Let me back up a little, because the folder is the whole story. I had been at Caldwell since I was 37, came in as a supply chain manager when the department was running on spreadsheets and handshake agreements. Over the next 12 years, I built it into something real, negotiated exclusivity with North Peak Supply Co. After they had stopped returning Caldwell's calls for 2 years. Set up Fulcrum Parts as a secondary vendor with penalty waiver clauses that only worked because I personally oversaw implementation. Brought Vantech Industrial on as a client in year 4 and managed that relationship every quarter since. Vantech alone was worth about $7.2 million annually, roughly 16% of the company's total revenue. Profit growth in the 4 years before all this, 17% year over year. We had gone from $28 million in revenue to just over $47 million. Nobody threw a party for that. Lance sent me a thumbs-up emoji when I filed the Q4 report. The folder had a copy of the North Peak Supply contract, specifically Clause 7.2, Authorized Liaison, G. Hale. Transfer of liaison role requires 30 days written notice and written approval from North Peak Legal. I had insisted on that language myself 2 years earlier. Our corporate attorney, Diane, had raised an eyebrow when I pushed for it. I told her sometimes you do not know you're being erased until they need your handwriting. She shrugged and put it in. The folder also had a copy of a clause I had negotiated into my original employment contract back when I started. Section D, Clause 4B. Any IP framework I authored remained mine unless formally transferred via board approval before my departure date. It was the kind of thing a lawyer might overlook during a routine offboarding. It was also the kind of thing that could stop a $40 million project cold. Lance had never filed an IP transfer. Not once in 12 years. I also had the audit right clause. I retained the right to review any contract I had personally signed within the prior 18 months. That one was the quietest of the 3. Most people would not notice it was there until they needed to. Now about Nolan. 2 days before I resigned, he came to my desk with a printed copy of the North Peak supplier agreement. He held it the way people hold documents they do not understand but are pretending to review carefully. "Hey Garrett," he said, "this clause 7.2 thing. Is that just a formality? Like I can still contact the vendor directly, right?" I looked at him for about 4 seconds. "Read the language carefully," I said. "It means what it says." He wrote something down on a notepad. He wrote it down wrong. I could see it from where I was sitting. I did not correct him. I went back to work. The day I resigned, I went to Lance's office at 2 p.m. He was on the phone when I knocked, waving me in with one finger like I was a delivery guy waiting for a signature. I stood there and listened to him wrap up the call. Yeah, Nolan will quarterback the vendor handoff. Fresh perspective. Love it. He hung up and leaned back in that leather chair that probably cost more than my first car. Garrett, big day, right? Exciting times. I hope you're ready to support Nolan as we get this thing off the ground. I set the envelope on his desk. White single page inside. He picked it up, opened it, read the one sentence printed on it. I, Garrett Hale, resign effective 2 weeks from today. His face went through about 3 different expressions in 4 seconds. The smile dropped first, then came the confusion. Then something I had not seen from him before, something that looked a lot like a man realizing the floor he had been standing on was not actually attached to anything. You're joking, right? No. Is this about the project? You made your decision. I'm making mine. He sat forward. Come on, Garrett, let's be adults here. Don't take this personally. I'm not taking it personally. I said, I'm taking it accurately. He opened his mouth again, but I was already standing up. I'll transfer access to the necessary files over the next 2 weeks, I said. Some of it will need legal clearance first, especially the exclusivity renewals. I'd get Diane involved early. He squinted. Legal clearance for what? I smiled, said nothing, and walked out. From the hallway, I sent one email from my phone to the legal contact at North Peak Supply Co. Subject line, per clause 7.2. Notice of authorized liaison departure. Short, professional, exactly what the contract required. That was a Tuesday. The next 2 weeks I came in, did my job, archived what needed archiving, and drafted clean handoff notes for everything, except the 3 things I had already decided to handle differently. I left placeholder files in the shared drive, named them things like Q4 Irongate Timeline File V2 and Vendor Rollout Master, empty folders with organized names. Nobody opened them while I was still there. I noted that. On my last day, I cleared my desk, shook a few hands, and left before 4 p.m. No farewell email, no speech. I just walked out to the parking lot, got in my truck, and drove home. That night, I filed the paperwork for Hale Supply Solutions, LLC. I had been drafting it for 3 months. Day 1 after I was gone, Nolan submitted the first purchase order to North Peak Supply Co. It came back the same afternoon. Rejected. Request submitted by unauthorized personnel. Per clause 7.2 of the active supplier agreement, all procurement communications must originate from authorized liaison G. Hale or a formally approved successor. Transfer of liaison role requires 30 days written notice and written approval from North Peak Legal. I know this because Sylvia, Lance's assistant and someone I had worked alongside for 8 years, forwarded me the email chain. No message attached, just the forward. I understood what she meant. Nolan spent the next 3 days calling every contact in the vendor directory who had the word procurement anywhere in their title. A few responded to say they would need to verify authorization before proceeding. Most did not respond at all. By day 4, he had escalated to Troy, the CFO, who called Diane, who pulled the contract and went very quiet on the phone. Week 2 brought the second problem. Fulcrum Parts, our secondary vendor, flagged a delivery on a batch of components for the Irongate pilot. The timeline penalty waiver in their contract, the one I had negotiated specifically, only applied while I was actively overseeing implementation. Without me in that role, the late delivery fees kicked back in at the standard rate. The invoice that came through was $34,000 more than what the project budget had accounted for. Troy called an internal meeting. From what I heard, Lance told the room it was a temporary disruption and that the team would adapt. Nolan suggested they bring in an outside consultant to help bridge the gap on the technical side. Lance approved it. By week 4, they had hired a firm out of Indianapolis. $85,000 engagement. The consultant's job was to get the legacy integration system running well enough to push the Irongate pilot through to the client demo stage. The system would not cooperate. What nobody at Caldwell knew, because I had never written it down and nobody had ever asked, was that the legacy integration platform had a back-end workaround I had built in year 6 to handle a specific conflict between 2 vendor data formats. It was not documented, it was not in any handoff note. It lived in my head because at the time I built it, I fully expected to be the one running it indefinitely. The consultant hit that conflict on day 3 and spent the rest of their engagement trying to route around it from the outside. They could not. I got a call from Diane around week 5, professional, careful, clearly not her idea to reach out. Garrett, I just want to ask informally, is there any documentation on the legacy system configuration that might not have made it into the standard handoff files? Everything I was required to hand over is in the shared drive. I said, is there something specific you're looking for? A pause. The integration workaround. The one that handles the vendor format conflict. I'd be happy to discuss that, I said. My consulting rate is $310 an hour. I can have a standard engagement agreement over to you by end of day. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll pass that along, she said. She did not call back that week, but I knew it was only a matter of time before someone with more authority would. The call I had been half expecting came on a Wednesday morning, week 6. Not from Lance, not from Diane. It came from Patrice, the lead strategist at Vantec Industrial. Vantec had been a Caldwell client for 5 years. I had managed that relationship from day one. Their operations director had once sent me a handwritten note after we pulled off a same-week supplier swap during a parts shortage. He wrote, "You are the reason this thing works." I kept the note in my desk for 2 years before I finally threw it away. I wish I had kept it. Patrice told me Vantec had requested an emergency meeting with Lance and the board to discuss continued engagement. She told me this not as a warning, but as a courtesy, because she wanted me to know what was coming before it became public. We've been watching the Iron Gate rollout, she said. The delays, the vendor issues, the demo that got pushed twice. Our operations team has lost confidence in the transition. We're preparing to terminate the current contract unless there is a significant change in how this account is being managed. I told her I understood. We have already drafted a direct consulting agreement with your firm, she said. If Caldwell wants to retain the relationship going forward, they will coordinate through you. After the call, I sat at my desk in the co-working suite I had rented in the 3rd week after leaving. Quiet space, good light, 2 blocks from a decent lunch spot. I had signed a 6-month lease paid from the initial retainer Vantec had already wired over. $7.2 million in annual revenue was about to walk out of Caldwell's door. Some of it was already walking toward mine. Sylvia forwarded me the internal meeting notes 2 days later. Lance had opened the Vantec call with his usual confidence. Fresh team, minor bumps, we are committed to delivering results. Patrice had waited for him to finish and then said, with no particular emotion, that Caldwell's new team had been unable to locate a project timeline in 3 attempts, and that Vantec was no longer interested in waiting for institutional knowledge to be rebuilt from scratch. Then she said the line that I'm told made the room go completely still. We are prepared to terminate unless Garrett Hale is re-engaged. Effective immediately. We have already signed directly with his firm. If your company wants to keep this relationship, you will work through him. Lance tried to respond. Something about transition planning and legal complications. Patrice thanked him for his time and ended the call. I read that twice. Then I went and got a coffee and came back and read it once more. Vindication does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it is just a cold, professional memo from a client worth $7, $2 million a year that says they would rather work with you directly. That was enough. Within a week, 2 other mid-tier clients had reached out through back channels, quiet emails, casual questions about availability, nothing formal yet. But the pattern was clear. People remembered who had actually been doing the work. The board meeting happened at the end of week 6. Damon, the independent board chair, called it. No catering this time. Diane presented first. She laid out Section D, Clause 4B from my original employment contract. Any IP framework I authored was retained by me unless formally transferred via board approval prior to my departure. No such transfer had been filed. Lance had signed off on my offboarding paperwork without catching it. Diane, to her credit, did not soften the delivery. The vendor matrix architecture, the supply logic framework, and the integration system that Project Iron Gate is built on all fall under this clause, she said. Mr. Hale retains rights to all 3. Lance said it was impossible, said I was just an employee, said he never would have signed if he had understood what it meant. Damon looked at him and said, an employee whose name is on every logic tree in the system you're currently trying to run. Troy put the numbers on the board. Pipeline had contracted 22% in 60 days. The Vantec revenue, $7.2 million annually, now routed through an outside LLC. The fulcrum penalty invoice still unpaid. The $85,000 consultant engagement producing nothing billable. Project Iron Gate, the initiative Lance had introduced with bagels and a comic sand slide, was bleeding before it had launched a single deliverable. Scott, the longest-serving board member, a man who had been through 2 recessions and 1 near bankruptcy at a previous company, looked down the table at Lance and said, "You told us the intern could carry the torch. So far, all he has done is light our reputation on fire." Nobody laughed. Nolan had been sitting 3 seats down from Lance through all of it. He did not speak. He did not look up much. About halfway through Troy's numbers, he quietly closed his laptop, picked up his notepad, stood up, and walked out of the room. The door clicked shut behind him. Lance watched him go. Nobody said anything about it. Damon turned to legal. What are our options? Diane said one word, negotiate. Then she added, respectfully and fast. I was not in that room, but I heard every detail of it before the day was over. Sylvia again, this time with a fuller account. She had been in the building during the meeting and had talked to two people who were in it directly. I did not ask her to do this. She just did. 8 years of working alongside someone builds a certain kind of loyalty that a title change and a new org chart cannot undo. I read her message, set my phone face down on the desk, and opened a blank document on my laptop. I titled it, Retainer Adjustment, Board Rate. Then I started typing. The next call was not going to be about what went wrong. It was going to be about what it would cost to make it right. Lance called on a Tuesday afternoon. I let it ring 4 times. On the 5th attempt I picked up. Hi Lance. Garrett. His voice had that careful quality people get when they are about to ask for something they know they do not deserve. How are you doing? Not a question. A preamble. I looked around the co-working suite. Good afternoon light coming through the west window. A second monitor I had bought myself, paid for with the first invoice Vantic had cleared. A whiteboard on the wall with 3 new client names written on it in blue marker. Doing well, I said. Good. Good to hear. A pause. Listen, I'm not going to waste your time. We have hit some complications with the Irongate rollout. I think you probably know that. I was thinking maybe a short-term engagement, just to get us through this phase, something informal to bridge the gap. Informal, that word did something to me. After 12 years of 6 a.m. calls and midnight vendor escalations and pulling that company through situations Lance never even heard about, he wanted to come back to me with informal. I'm consulting full-time now, I said, but I'm open to a conversation about terms. Of course, of course. What kind of number are you thinking? I opened the document I had already prepared. Retainer adjustment, board rate. I had drafted it the night before while my wife sat across the living room reading and pretending not to watch me work. I read him the number. It was 2.2 times what I had been making as a salaried director. On top of that, a vendor protection advisory clause, a 90-day minimum engagement, and a separate IP licensing fee for Caldwell's continued use of the integration framework I had built. Silence on the line. Then, that is a significant ask, Garrett. It is a fair rate for what you need, I said. The proposal will be in your inbox within the hour. It will be straightforward. Another pause. You have certainly found your voice. I always had it, Lance. You just never thought you needed to listen. He laughed. It was the kind of laugh that does not mean anything is funny. More like a man acknowledging, finally, that the conversation he thought he was in charge of had not been his to run for a while now. I will look for the email, he said. You do that. I sent the proposal at 40:37 p.m. The read receipt came back at 40:52. Lance did not reply that evening. But the next morning, before I had finished my first cup of coffee, a wire transfer hit the Hale Supply Solutions account. Clean. Full retainer amount. First 90 days up front. 1 email followed it. 4 lines. Terms accepted. We would appreciate your availability starting Monday. Please coordinate directly with Troy on the Irongate timeline. We consider this a priority engagement. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened, just terms accepted, and please coordinate with Troy. I printed the email, taped it to the wall above my desk, wrote 4 words across the top in black marker. My favorite apology. The investor event was 3 weeks later, a regional logistics and supply chain summit held at a hotel downtown. The kind of evening where people in expensive suits stand around talking about efficiency while waitstaff carry trays of things nobody is actually eating. I was there as a guest of Reed, a managing partner at Dovetail Technologies. Dovetail was one of Caldwell's direct competitors, and Reed had reached out to me 2 weeks after I left the company. We had been having conversations since then about a longer advisory arrangement. That night was meant to be the informal close. I saw Lance from across the room about 20 minutes after I arrived. He was standing near the bar holding a glass he was not drinking from, scanning the room with the particular expression of a man who used to walk into places like this, assuming everyone wanted to talk to him and was now quietly recalibrating. He spotted me at the same moment Reed and I were shaking hands over a contract folder. I did not go out of my way to make sure he saw it. I also did not go out of my way to make sure he did not. Reed signed first, then his associate, then me. Garrett Hale, strategic advisor, clean black ink on the last line of a 6-figure annual agreement with a company that had been trying to close this deal for 14 months before I came into the picture. Scott, the senior board member, was standing nearby. He had come over to say hello earlier in the evening. On his way back toward the bar, he passed Lance, stopped briefly, and said something I was not close enough to hear. Lance did not respond. He just watched me finish signing and then turned and walked toward the exit. I did not follow. I did not need to. There is a moment somewhere in all of this where you stop keeping score. Not because you lost, because you stopped needing the scoreboard. I had spent 12 years making sure a company I did not own would not fall apart. I had done it quietly, consistently, and without much acknowledgement. When they told me I was replaceable, I did not argue. I just stopped holding things together and let the structure show everyone what had been holding it up. That is not a revenge story. That is just cause and effect. If you have spent years being the person who actually keeps things running, the one who knows where the bodies are buried and which vendors to call at midnight and which contracts have teeth, you already know what I'm talking about. You know what it feels like to watch someone younger and less qualified get handed the keys to something you built? And you know the specific kind of quiet that settles over you when you finally decide you're done waiting for someone else to notice your value. Do not wait. Start keeping receipts. Know what you own. And when the time comes, be ready to walk out the door like you already have somewhere better to be. Because if you have done the work, you probably do.